Hey guys, it's Tuesday, April 8th, and yeah, the sun came up. The world did not end. Everyone was predicting that on Monday, oh, it's going to be Black Monday. Or should that be African American Monday? No, Black Monday. And people are going to be upset. Stock traders are going to jump out of their windows on Wall Street. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. I would like to see that. But this is just like the crash in 1929 because they're trying to put tariffs and it crashed the market. Well, it looked like it was going to start off that way. And on Friday, the market was way down. But today, it looks like it was just down like 1%, which is nothing. That's just normal variation. So it looks like things stabilized. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe today there'll be a huge sell off, but I think we're close to the bottom. There was a little correction because people didn't really understand what's happening with these tariffs, but it's not all doom and gloom. Even if you're into stocks or Bitcoin, it's not doom and gloom. And first of all, I just want to welcome you all to watching this video. This is on YouTube and on Rumble and on my Substack, and I load it to Twitter. But typically, if I do a video that has to do with race or LGBTQ, it's not going to be on YouTube. So if you want to get all my videos, subscribe to me on Rumble, or better yet, follow me on Substack, Ramsey Paul. I will stay on YouTube, but my YouTube videos are stuff that won't get the censors all mad. Like yesterday, I did a video about a touchy subject I couldn't do on YouTube. So it is what it is, as they say. But what does this mean? The economy and everything that is happening. This is an interesting discussion because I think this is a fundamental change, not only for America, but the world. I think this really signifies the end of globalism. And I'll get more into that here in a bit. But I also want to do a promo for Wednesday night. I do a wrap up every week. It's called the Wednesday Wrap Up with Z Man. The guy's brilliant. We have a lot of good synergy together. And he's going to join me again on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central. And we're going to discuss these tariffs and the economy and globalism. It should be a great discussion. He wrote about it on Monday. So consider this like a preview to our discussion on Wednesday. But this is a huge issue. And I think globalism had a lot of components to it. And the first thing you have to discuss is what do we mean by globalism? Because in a sense, there's always been global trade and movement. There's been explorers. Columbus, he came to the Americas because he was trying to find a quicker route around the world to trade in spices with East India. And that didn't happen because we had a continent in the way. But that was driven, you could say, by a type of globalism. It was trade, and people always traded, countries traded with each other, and there were explorers, and some people moved to other countries. So that's always been with us. So when we talk about globalism, that's not what we're talking about. The modern definition of globalism, how I see it, is the John Lennon song Imagine. And all the shitlibs, they love that song. And I think they use this song as their vision for the future. That and Star Trek, okay, both were just made up, fiction, but they see this as a vision, so we just have a one world government. We no longer have nations anymore. Everyone just moves to where they want. After all, we're all exactly the same. We all bleed red, right? So there's no more countries. And if you do have countries, they're just more administrative units, or so you still may have Spain or you still may have Britain, but you're just likely to find a bunch of Africans in Britain or Muslims or who knows, right? It's just a big hodgepodge of people. There's no longer an ethnicity. There's just geographic areas. This is how they saw it. And part of globalism is dismantling borders so everyone can kind of pour into other countries. And the second part was trade, which kind of makes sense. So why have tariffs? Everyone just trade with everyone else. And as a corporation, then you don't really have an allegiance to a country because countries are abolished. You have an allegiance to your bottom line. So if it's cheaper to build a factory in Vietnam where you can pay the people 20 cents an hour, well, you do that. And that's globalism. And yeah, it may hurt, let's say, American workers because we no longer have the factories that employ the people, but you don't give a shit about that. You're a globalist, you're a cosmopolitan, you're rich, you fly in your private jet to Los Angeles, New York City, London. You don't really care about the average person. You're a globalist yourself. And this is how you see that life should be. And this was the way we have been really. It kind of got started after World War II, but it really took off under Bill Clinton with NAFTA. And that was a free trade agreement. A lot of people objected to it at the time, like Ross Perot, Pat Buchanan. They said by removing these tariffs, yeah, we're going to get cheaper cost of goods, but it's going to suck the jobs out of the United States. And then the other people, including the kind of the neocons, neoliberals, and libertarians, they had this idea, oh no, it's just going to make everything prosperous. Well, it didn't really happen. It did make the top 10% of people prosperous. That is true. The top 10% became wealthier than ever before in history. But the other 90%, it really destroyed, and medium-sized cities in the United States it destroyed. And so many people now, they can't afford a house if you're young, and you can't support a family because there's no good jobs. Yeah, you can work at Panda Express, but you're not going to be able to attract a wife and have a family based on that. Whereas years ago, yeah, if you work at General Motors, you could. And that was the norm. So globalism has really been devastating for most of Americans. And yeah, while they work at Panda Express and you don't have a wife, you can play your video game and watch porn, and the stuff at the Walmart is cheaper than it would be otherwise. But that's a miserable life because there's no sense of community. And the problem with globalism is the same problem that was with communism. It's based on a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature. Communism always failed because it didn't understand that people work on incentives, meaning I'm not going to bust my butt and work hard for the collective community, because why should I? So I work hard, and most of my money goes to that guy over there that's lazy and doesn't do anything. And then eventually, well, hell, I'm not going to work hard. If he's lazy, getting the same amount of money as me, why should I bother? And it trickles through the whole society. Then the whole society gets poor. And we've had a lot of experiments on this. Communism has never been successful. It just leads to poverty. And people, if they can, they try to get away from it. That's the case. Globalism is the same thing. It's no longer theoretical. For the majority of people, it makes them poorer, and it doesn't raise their standard of living. But more than that, it goes against human nature, where people want to be around people that share the same values. And a lot of that, I believe, comes from biology. I know that may be controversial, but biology tends to dictate our culture and the way we live. And people from Norway, from a biological basis, are different than, let's say, headhunters in New Guinea. And it's just not culture. There's a biological component to it. And it's not a matter who's better or worse, it's just differences. But the problem with globalism, it tries to squish everyone together, and it creates a spiritual problem, even though people may have more stuff, more trinkets down their house because, oh, globalism makes free trade is free trade, which lowers the price because we can use basically slave labor to make our tennis shoes and all the other widgets that we want. So we go to Walmart, buy all the shit, but it doesn't enhance our lives. We don't have a meaningful job. We don't have a community. We're alien. The people around us are alien. They may not even speak our language, a radically different religion. They have a different spirit of how they look at things, about liberty and what a nation should be. They may not really care about the environment or keeping things clean. They live in trash because that's their culture. It's the way they are. And they don't assimilate to us because why should they assimilate to us? That's racist. They can celebrate how they are. Now, they want to be with us because we're prosperous and they're not, but otherwise they don't want to become us. They're a separate people, and it just creates conflict. So it globalism was doomed to fail, and we're seeing the end of it. Number one, through borders, getting rid of the illegals first, but then starting to get rid of stopping new illegals from coming in. That's President Trump has already done that. It's basically zero now, but now also getting illegals out. And this is something that has to happen not just in America, but in Canada, Western Europe. There's a lot of people in those countries that don't belong there. Those aren't their homelands. They're not compatible with the Europeans. They need to go back to their own homes. I wish them well, but we don't have a duty to try to lift them up in our homelands. It's impossible to do so. They just drag us down. And so this is really an attack on the whole globalist agenda. Now, getting rid of globalism doesn't mean that, oh, well, there's no more trade. Of course, there's trade, but the trade is in a manner that protects our industries. We're not going to allow our jobs to be, shipped overseas. So we want American programmers, students that go through school, learn how to code. They should get a good paying job in America. It shouldn't be shipped to India. It doesn't provide a future for our kids so they can buy a house and have a family. It's a disastrous agenda. So I support what President Trump is doing here. This is going to be very difficult because there's a lot of people made a lot of money on globalism, got very rich, and there's a lot of Trump derangement syndrome. He's going to come under a lot of pressure. Maybe a district judge would say, well, you can't do that to Trump. Who knows? So there's a lot of minefields that Trump is going to have to go through. But I think it's necessary. I think it is necessary. And as we've seen, I don't think it's the end of the world. The market will adjust to the new reality. And other things Trump is talking about of getting the interest rates lower. The Federal Reserve, they may cut the interest rate because inflation's way down now. And if that happens, that will encourage people putting money into stocks, because if you can't get much money on like your bank account or a CD or a treasury, you're going to invest your money into stocks or crypto. What else are you going to put it into? So that's going to encourage that. And then Trump also is really a huge announcement, if they can get this through, is eliminate capital gains tax, not just lower it a little bit, but eliminate it. And if that's the case, all the money that you invest in the stock market or crypto, all the profits, there's no tax on it. That's all yours. That's huge. If that's the case, people are definitely going to want to invest. So that's going to help the markets too. So while the tariffs short term will hurt the market, I think the other aspects of it, where we bring back manufacturing in the United States, that would be a long process, but also changing the tax law with capital gains taxes. And it's going to encourage a type of optimism in America. But yeah, there's a little bit of pain first, but it wasn't as bad as all the doomsers were saying. The people that predict doomsday, they're always wrong, right? So here it is, Tuesday, and we're still alive. The market still exists. So don't get too black-pilled about everything. It's a change we had to go through. Talk to you guys later.